There I am. All right, y'all. Sorry about that. I took this break and I started snacking on some pistachios and the last thing I wanted you guys to see was me snacking on pistachios. So I'm back now and I don't know. I always have things on my mind. Um Recently, sorry. They were salty. They were delicious. Recently I've had things on my mind. The thing I've had on my mind in particular um was the idea of propaganda. And I'll get into that in a second, but I was doing a town hall. Okay, cool. Um, so yeah, let me not bring that down. Sorry. I can't remember. I feel like there was something that I wanted to show on Twitter specifically. Um, Maybe not. Okay. So, hmm, we'll do this. Hello. You can see me. I am big now. I am big kid. Big kid. So lately, or the other day, I was thinking about, oh my gosh, why am I so like, whoa, whoa. All right, there we go. That's better. Okay, I can't do what I was gonna do. Yeah, I know, Jaden. Am I better now? Is it better? Is it better? Um, I wanted to talk about something that I was thinking about the other day. Um, I hit record, Jaden. That's why I started lagging. I should be better. I should be better. I can also um do this so it's less noticeable. Um don't pay attention to this right now. What's on screen? Pay attention to me. Pay attention to little old me. Um I had this thought recently. Oh my god, I didn't even realize what this was. Holy shit. Um this idea of uh propaganda. And I've been thinking about this for like the last week. And then I started really thinking about it the other day while I was up north because go up north is in Michigan. Up north is typically Trump country, right? Um, there are some Democratic enclaves up that way, but you're talking like Traverse City, Cadillac area, northern in the northern LP, and then the UP. You're talking like Marquette, Escanaba, um, where those the counties where those cities lie, right? So I was thinking about. I was really thinking about propaganda in this way. In while I was up there, because I was talking to someone, and he's like, I don't understand why people voted for Trump. I don't get it. Like the guy, he was like, I hate Trump. He's a terrible guy. Which, right, he is a terrible guy. Trump is by far probably the worst. I don't know if he or Reagan is worse. I'm debating that right now because we don't know what the aftermath of Trump is going to be. We know what Trump currently is, right? But this so in this conversation, it really drove home this idea of propaganda being such a powerful tool. Not only is it a powerful tool, but it is a tool that has been wielded by, um, you know, uh, a lot of political parties all over the world. Propaganda can be bad and it can be good. Propaganda can be good in trying to get a message out for something that is going to be helpful for society, like um, spreading propaganda about getting vaccinated to protect yourself, your family, your neighbors. You know what I mean? That kind of thing, or propaganda for um, getting the public to support more efficient public transportation. That's good propaganda. Bad propaganda is propaganda that plays on people's fears, and so that they go along with something that is bad, essentially, right? Something that's going to hurt them um, in the long run, um, because they're scared of, the out group either benefiting from something or the fear of an out group taking something away. Now, America specifically is a country that has um, always, had a populace that was propagandized, uh, and it is very much, very much evident in our in American society today. But I mean, it goes, as far back as before the Revolutionary War, right? It goes back to like witch trials and shit, where people are spreading propaganda. It's like, oh, if a woman is this, this, or this, they're a witch, and you know the whole idea of women being witches was used so that people could go after a woman's property. They didn't like the woman owned a property, so that they would say that they're a witch, and this kind of propaganda spread, and that's why you got the witch trials, right? Revolution, that's bad propaganda. Revolutionary War, you're fighting back against this force that is you know taking advantage of the colonies, so you use propaganda to get people to support the revolution. That is positive propaganda for the most part, right? But then you have abolitionists who are spreading propaganda to end slavery. That's also a good propaganda. But then on the other side, you have people who are protecting the institution that was slavery through propaganda. That's bad propaganda. You know what I mean? So, and it just goes on and on and on. Propaganda is such a fundamental tool as it pertains to American society, and I when I think about propaganda and I think about Trump, I think about all the propaganda that goes into the mind of someone who um, not only happily. Sorry, Jaden, I'm going on a tangent. This uh wait, repeat what exactly? I'm the Thank you for the bits, by the way. Repeat which part, because I was just talking about old forms of propaganda. Um from abolitionists using propaganda to pro slavery groups using propaganda, um, and so forth. And it just, the propaganda has just been such a vital part of American society for many different things, right? So I'm moving way past because there's too much propaganda. Um, so and when you think about the mind of a person that okay, I got it. So when you think about the mind of someone who can either happily vote for Trump because they are big Trump supporters, or someone who just votes Republican, you have to understand that they are propagandized to believe in what Trump is saying, what the Republicans are saying, and that's done through different mediums. The most prominent being Fox News, but then there's all these other offshoots of conservative media that plays a vital part in it. You have now with the Trump administration using social media to spread propaganda. I mean, the White House and the labor, God, what is it? What's it called? The Department of the Department of Labor, the Labor Department, whatever it's called. I can't remember right now for some weird reason. They were pushing out a lot of Nazi and Nazi adjacent propaganda. The Republicans and Trump, they have used propaganda to instill fear within their supporters. They don't, if you notice, they don't give you policy positions. They tell you what they tell you what any outgroup is going to take away from you, and that you should be fearful of that. Um, so like that's why they say immigrants are going to take your jobs, immigrants are taking your resources, um, the urban areas are taking your tax dollars and using them for degenerate purposes. Um, you know the the countries that are tens of thousands of miles away from us are out to get you, and they want to blow up America, yada yada yada. And that's how you get people to vote Republican, and they do it over and over again. Republicans will not give you policy ideas. They tell their supporters that other people are are going to take things from you, or other people that we don't like are going to benefit from the things that you use. And they tell their supporters that they work them up in a frenzy, and they use that to then take those things away from not only the perceived out group, but from also their supporters, right? That propaganda is very, very strong, and it is very hard to get people out of that propagandized uh, mindset, because the playing on someone's fear is such a stronger strategy than playing on people's hopes. Fear is a much stronger emotion than hope could ever think of being. But also because, I mean, in this country we have not progressed for a very long time. Things have just gotten worse and worse and worse. If you look at the Republican Party now, they're back in propaganda mode. They are telling you that terrorists are trying to take over the country in the Democratic part using the Democratic Party. Abdul Al Sayed is a terrorist. Chris Rabb is a terrorist. Adam Hamawi is a terrorist. Um, Daria Lisa is a terrorist. Why? Simply because they are a Muslim. And then everyone else in the Democratic Party is a terrorist sympathizer. Everyone in the Democratic Party is a communist, and they're coming to take things from you. There was a clip recently, which actually, let me find it because this will be a very good example of propaganda that's saying that we're things are going to be taken away from you. So I just gotta find it here, uh, because I is this it? No. Here it is. I found it. Okay. So this clip right here was really interesting because
My husband.
it was really interesting because not only is it a blatant lie about Medicare for all, but it also goes against the actual reality of things. And I'm just gonna let it play before I talk more about it. But I just thought this was really a really interesting thing that this so-called Democrat who is supporting Mike Rogers decided to speak on.
I do not want to lose my Blue Cross Blue Shield. My husband is operating engineers, and I want my health insurance. I do not think people really realize what is on the line. You will lose your health insurance if the other candidate gets in office. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That is what Medicare for All means. So if you enjoy going to ER now and sitting for 6 hours, get ready to enjoy that a whole lot longer because you may be sitting there for 6 weeks. That means you will be in a clinic, in a hospital, wherever they say that you go. Once again, you say you don't want government in your business. Well, the government will be controlling your health care. They will control your doctors. They will control your medication. They will control your visits. They will control everything. So, if for no other reason, common sense prevails that
So she here is, pushing a blatant lie that Medicare for All is taking away health care, when in reality, Medicare for All is giving health care. And so that taking away that those words take they're going to take this away from you is where that propaganda comes into play. And it's so blatant too. It's just like not even hiding it in this case. It's very much out in the open because as we have seen through the last year, um uh the Republicans voted for, the big beautiful bill which absolutely devastated Medicaid and Medicare. Millions of people have lost their health care because of those Medicaid and Medicare cuts. Um, the cut to the ACA subsidies also contributed to millions of people losing their health care. Yet she went up to that podium and said that Medicare for all is going to take health care away from you, but millions of people have already lost their health care. And people are continuously losing their health care because they can't afford those premiums. They can't afford their copays. Uh, 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 they have a load of medical debt, and that they can't pay back, so they're going to lose their health care. This blatant use of propaganda, of the fear that people would have of losing their health care is quite sickening, actually. Medicare for all is, as you may know, is a uh, is a system that everyone would pay into so that everyone would be able to utilize it. From the poorest person to the richest person, you would be able to go in and get the health care that you need. You can get preventative care. You will be able to afford your medication because the government is able to step in and say this is the price that we are going to pay for this medication, and you are not going to sell it any higher. China does this. China made a fool of some pharmaceutical uh not reps, but like the pharmaceutical people um a couple years ago, who were trying to sell a drug higher than the government thought it should have been, and they basically made fools of those people. Like, no, you're not going to sell it this high. You're going to sell it at this price, or you're just not going to sell it at all. Having the government be able to negotiate those prices and then you be able to get them because it's going to be paid for is a system that we need and many other countries have. As the richest country in the world, it seems odd that we have so many people who cannot afford their health care, afford be able to afford their medications, afford to see a doctor regularly. And through Medicare for All, people would actually be saving on healthcare, actually, because it would eliminate copays, it would eliminate premiums, and it would eliminate medical debt. So you would be saving money in the long run, even if even if you are paying a little more in taxes. You're already paying into Medicare, so if we just paid a little bit more into Medicare and get rid of those premiums, get rid of those co-pays, and get rid of medical debt, you are saving money. And not only that, but through a progressive tax rate, the wealthy would be paying a large portion into that system. With that being said, another part of propaganda is propaganda for the military. We this past year, obviously, have engaged in an illegal war, committed war crimes. The first day, we used an expensive ass missile to bomb a bunch of schoolgirls, right? And we've used so much expensive military equipment. We've lost a lot of expensive military equipment for absolutely no gain. We're tanking the global economy. Global oil reserves are low. The cost of gas is way up. The cost of just about everything is up because there are so many petroleum based products that we use on a day to day basis. Cost of living is just up. Everything sucks right now. But the military gets a lot of money every year. As a matter of fact, the Trump administration is asking for $1.5 trillion. There's a lot of propaganda that goes into the U.S. military, and this has been a thing pretty much since the inception of this country. The military has been a very important and vital part of um, this country, and conducting, or being able to, being allowing America to assert itself as the global superpower, the police of the world. Um, you know, America has a hand all over the world. There's at least 800 military bases that we know of. It is an imperialistic state. We're everywhere, right? And to do that, we have to propagandize people into believing that our military is a just military and that our presence around the world is necessary, because if we are not, then the people over there are going to come and get us. um, and we love our men and women in uniform. They are the protectors of democracy, yada yada yada. We use all They use all these wordings, to to get Americans on board with endless war and endless amounts of money going into the military. But where does that money go to the military? Well, it goes to defense contracting. And this ProPublica piece that we're gonna read, it details that this is just one story in the series by ProPublica about the military spending. And I did pre-read this, and it's pretty good. A lot of spending goes into weapon development, um, some of which never actually, we get anything out of. It goes to weapons that come out faulty. It goes to, just hiking up prices on basic things like nuts and bolts. The defense industry is able to basically get the government to pay endless sums of money to them. And this piece mentions that they've failed, every audit that they've gone. The Pentagon has failed every audit that they've been under, right? So when when the government tells you that we cannot afford to, Trump has said this. We cannot afford to take care of healthcare. We cannot afford to do childcare because we're fighting a war, right? When you hear that we don't have the money for the things that actually help people, you have to remember that, hey, we're spending a shit ton of money to bomb, kids and women and schools overseas, but our kids are starving. Our kids don't have good schools. Our roads are crumbling. Our bridges are crumbling. Everything is just coming down around us, but we always have money to do more war. Why is that? Where is that money coming from? Why is it that we can't use our tax dollars to take care of ourselves? Why is that, stealing from our hard-earned dollars, but money going to the military, using our tax dollars, is not stealing from us? Why is that? Propaganda. So, anyways, I wanted to read this. If you look, this is a chart about where spending goes, right? So if you look at this, so it doesn't say what this is over here, but here, right here, we've Environmental Protection Agency. This is how much they use. I mean, I don't even know. I can't even begin to tell you how much that is. It is such a small minutia of money that we use. So here's some more agencies, and we get the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Education. What's that? Maybe 75 billion for Department of Education. This is, whatever department. Then we get here, this is the Department of Defense. You see 100 billion, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 7, 8, 9, 1 trillion, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 trillion. This is the proposed for 2027 is just under 1.5 trillion dollars. This is an insane amount of money to put in for the Department of Defense, when every other department that we have gets the tiniest fraction of the money that we spend. This is where all of our fucking money goes, and we get crumbs of everything that we pay into, and it should irritate every American. So, let's get with this. Let's get started with this article. The $1 trillion black box. The U.S. military budget is vast and opaque. Projects touted as engineering marvels end up facing years of delays and ballooning costs. ProPublica has launched a series to report on the Pentagon spending. Let's see. So the sums are vast, but the explanations for spending range from vague to inscrutable. Consider these items in the law that funded the Department of Defense this year. For other procurement, Air Force, 32.6 billion for research development, test and evaluation, defense-wide 35.2 billion, and for supplies and associated support services related to the U.S. Code Title 10, Section 3601, subsection C, 3B, clauses 1 through 4, a mere $650 million. Determining what exactly all this public money is paying for requires cross referencing thousands of pages of financial tables, accounting records, and congressional committee documents that will leave all but the most determined budgeting sleuth at a loss. Yet, this is how the U.S. government explains its funding decisions for the most expensive military in the world, and the cost is growing. Uh, there's no way that you can follow the money because it keeps getting twisted like a Rubik's cube," said John Ferrari, a retired Army Major General and now a non-resident senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. None of it is set up to be transparent. I have to stop there because John Ferrari sounds like a um, a fake name made up by Roger from American Dad. I just had to throw that out there. That's crazy. I'm have a drink of water real quick. There's no way. Oh, sorry. I already read that. ProPublica is setting out to untwist this Rubik's Cube in a series of investigative articles, and we're asking for your help. In the months to come, we will grapple with how President Trump is spending taxpayer money at the Department of Defense, or the Department of War, as his administration calls it. With your assistance, we hope to emerge with vital, previously untold investigative stories. So, while accounting is rarely the stuff of action thrillers, the black box that is the Pentagon budget contains a world of grandiose plans and staggering consequences, from extraordinary, expensive jets, ships, and missiles to high stakes projects gone terribly awry, to closed door deal making with the world's most powerful arms sellers. Consider our first story in the series about the epic dysfunction of artillery factory bankrolled by a $533 million from $533 million from the U.S. Army. I didn't read all the way through that article, but it from what I read, it was pretty interesting. It was about manufacturing missiles that weren't even usable. They made them, and by the time that they were done, they were completely unusable. So that was $533 million of U.S. taxpayer money just just lit on fire. The scale is hard to fathom. Congress appropriated $1 trillion for defense this year, more than the combined appropriations for agencies overseeing health, veterans affairs, education, housing, agriculture, and justice. Twice as much, in fact. If the president prevails in his priorities for next year's budget, defense spending will soar dramatically higher still to 1.5 trillion. That would be more, adjusted for inflation, than the country spent annually on defense during the height of World War II. The Pentagon's balance sheets are opaque even to the Pentagon itself. The agency as a whole has never received a passing grade on a comprehensive financial audit. The Department of Defense did not respond to a request for comment. One thing is clear: vast sums are funneled into developing costly weapon systems that often come in over budget, get delivered behind schedule, or are rendered obsolete by the time they're finished, if they're finished at all. Isn't that crazy? The American taxpayer pays for shit all the time that doesn't get finished. These poor outcomes follow grand promises. The Zumwalt class of naval destroyers was lauded for its affordable and flexible design. A ground control system for GPS satellites called Next Generation Operating Control Systems was to build the best value GPS control system for the future, and the F-35 jet was promised as a truly remarkable, capable, and affordable multi-role fighter that would be built on schedule and on cost. Wonder about that. Each of these programs went years past their original delivery. deadlines and cost far more than originally budgeted. In 1998, the price tag for the Zumwalts was estimated at 1.5 billion per ship, according to the Government Accountability Office. Now, the expected price exceeds 10 billion per ship, in part because the Navy reduced the quantity ordered. Expected cost for the GPS control system increased from 4.5 billion to over 7.5 billion. And developing, producing, and maintaining the F-35 is anticipated to require $2 trillion, making it the DoD's most expensive weapon system in history, according to the GAO. A Lockheed Martin spokesperson called the jet a critical capability for the United States and our allies, and said the company is proud to serve as its prime contractor. So imagine all the things that $2 trillion could do here in this country for citizens. It could do so much. You know, it costs 2 billion, only 2 billion. Oh wait, no, maybe it was, sorry, maybe it was 20. It might be 20 billion to end child hunger in this country. That is a small fraction of 2 trillion. But instead of feeding kids, which we actually took, we took away millions of kids' ability to afford food by cutting SNAP. That's the different story. That also goes with propaganda, though. But we did that, and we are paying $2 trillion for the development and maintaining, developing, producing, and maintaining an F-30 fucking 5 for one F-35. That's insane. So here are the early estimates for the F-35 fighter jet in 2001 was 101 million per plane. 2024, the estimate was 181 million per plane. That is a significant increase. The GPS control system in 2012 was 4.5 billion. Now the estimate in 2024, the estimate went up to 7.6. And the Zumwalt class destroyer in 1998 was estimated at the 1.5 billion per ship. Now, as of 2024, it is worth 10.4 billion per ship. Estimates include research and development costs. The Zumwalt increase was in part because the program was reduced from 32 ships to 3. All the numbers are in 2024 dollars. Isn't this some shit? They wanted 32 ships initially, and they cut it down to 3. So what did whatever company this uh is it Lockheed that makes the Zumwalts? Well, whoever makes the Zumwalt, uh, because they reduced the number asked for, they were able to just boost up the price. They said, okay, well, if you're going to cut down the amount of ships, we're going to raise the cost. And the government just threw money at them. It's like, here, you can have it. Here. Have all the taxpayer money for the shit that doesn't even exist yet. After the delays and cost increases, these projects have not exactly delivered reliable marvels. Only 3 of the originally expected 32 Zumwalts have been built. The GPS system was canceled after 16 years and $6.2 billion in program costs, including payments to defense contractor RTX, formerly Raytheon Technologies. And F-35s are able to perform all their missions only a quarter of the time. I'm not sure how many jets have we lost so far in the war with Iran. Let's see. I think it's 2 or 3, but that is a significant. let's see, or damaged. Because it's not an insignificant amount. Oh wait, so okay, it's even more devastating. More F-35s have just failed than been shot down. Just so we're clear. We've all seen the videos, by the way. I don't know why my camera's out of focus, but we have all seen the videos of F-35s falling out of the sky. Oh, oh, oh. Let's see. Let's see. I find it to be sad yet kind of funny that we've lost so many F-35s just due to malfunctions. Um it's just our taxpayer dollars at work, everybody. Let's see. Like, I mean, there's just Alaska, Miramar Air Base, near White Settlement, Texas. I just there's just so many. This one, oh my god, is just so bad. I cannot believe that our taxpayer dollars go to such a faulty fucking thing that cost upwards to what was it, 2 trillion to maintain. All right, let's continue. Experts in defense spending cite many systemic causes for such outcomes, including the Pentagon's frequent preference for complex designs, its habit of starting production before the design has been finalized, and not least, its dependency on companies operating virtual monopolies over niche defense products. There are a few lasting consequences for contractors who fail to deliver, the expert said. Industry just says, shucks, write us another check. So one congressional staffer who requested anonymity to speak about internal defense spending deliberations. Congress just throws cash at the problem. Now imagine if we started throwing cash to solve problems that the average American is going through. Like, it's just like we could do so much. We could do so much with 1.5 trillion to improve people's lives. Other types of notable figures abound, like the 7 million that the Pentagon reportedly spent on lobster tail in 1 month last year, the thousands of pages of regulations that would be Pentagon contractors must navigate, the 4,000% by which a company was found to be marking up products sold to the DoD, and the 111 million that RTX fraudulently extracted from the Pentagon by misleading the agency. Oops, didn't mean to do that. According to the Department of Justice, in 2024, RTX admitted to engaging in 2 schemes to defraud the Pentagon, including for Patriot missile systems, and paid over $950 million to resolve federal investigations. RTX did not respond to requests for comment. Keep in mind that Patriot, one of those Patriot missiles hit a school full of children on the first day of the bombing of Iran. So that's what people mean when they say our tax dollars go to bombing kids. It's a literal thing. Those in positions to reform U.S. military spending can benefit from the high spending status quo. Former four-star generals, Pentagon officials, and congressional staffers alike find a welcome reception in the industry they once oversaw. Defense spending bills present excellent opportunities for members of Congress to direct jobs to their districts, and the largest defense firms enjoy annual profits in the billions of dollars. This windfall ends up in the hands of a powerful few. From 2020 to 2024, just five companies: Lockheed Martin, Boeing, General Dynamics, RTX, formerly Raytheon, and Northrop Grumman, received DoD contracts worth a combined $771 billion. General Dynamics and Boeing declined to comment. Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin did not respond to requests for comment on the value of their DoD contracts. None of this is a secret. It was 4 decades ago, during another military buildup around a Republican president, that reports of the Pentagon paying $400 for a hammer led a presidential commission to study wasteful defense spending. $400 for a fucking hammer? That better be like Thor's hammer or some shit. It's because this dynamic has been allowed to persist despite periodic reform efforts that ProPublica believes the topic deserves renewed attention. The current administration, for its part, says that it is undertaking its own reforms, limiting stock buybacks by defense contractors, boosting new entrants to the defense industry, and promising new financial accountability. Boosting new entrants to the defense industry. Okay. I was like, did I read that wrong? Yet some fear Pentagon spending is becoming even more unrestrained in the second Trump era. Two of Trump's marquee Pentagon programs, panned by some as boondoggles, are estimated to collectively cost more than $1 trillion. Companies connected to the president's family and appointees have scooped up numerous DoD deals. I was just thinking about that too. I was going to mention that. Yeah, the Trump family, his sons, do have ties to companies that I think make drones or something like that. Companies connected to the president's family and appointees have scooped up numerous DoD deals. The administration gutted the office that tests weapon systems for safety and efficacy. All in all, Lockheed Martin CEO Jim Teichlet told investors in April, "This is a golden opportunity right now based on who's in government." So it's like it's wild that blatant corruption all around is just in front of us, and as we see it, there's just there. Well, we see it, and then all of a sudden a wall of propaganda just kind of falls in front. So then all we see is that propaganda, and we kind of begin to forget that the corruption is on the other side. um and so, like, a lot of the CEOs of these companies are friends with, if not Donald Trump, someone in his cabinet, or other prominent politicians, usually Republicans, and they get these favorable contracts. And that's why there's only a handful of defense companies. There have been more popping up, but we have the big, what was it, four, five, however many it was, one, two, three, four, five. Okay. Not everyone views U.S. military spending as excessive. Some defense hawks have spent years clamoring for more of it. Measured as a percentage of gross domestic product, they note, U.S. defense spending has fallen from previous highs. A large chunk of the defense budget goes toward paying the salaries of service members. And even if they take longer and cost more than expected, American defense products are sought after the world over. Weapons are expensive because our standards are high, said longtime defense lobbyist Jim Dyer. The outcomes are good. Um, I would be recording right now, except it was making me lag. But I'm going to get all this afterwards. Don't worry. ProPublica is setting out to examine military spending and its outcomes. If you have worked in the world of defense budgeting, spending, or contracting, we'd like to hear from you. That is the end of the article. It is very interesting because I it's just every time I hear someone say, "Oh, we should have a healthcare system." Oh no, I'm gonna download the VOD. I got it. Thank you though, Jaden. Um, it's so every time I hear someone say, we should use taxpayer money to take care of everyone, like doing Medicare for all, the question they always get is, well, how do you pay for it? But then we have this excessive amount of military spending, and you could say we have to, invest more in our military, and no one asks, how are we going to pay for it? How are we going to afford it? We've been again so propagandized to, just um, see this as normal that we just accept it. They say it and we just accept it. But because that's the norm. Anything outside of it, anything that actually would help Americans, is seen as the abnormal, is seen as the radical thing to do, and therefore you have to be grilled on it. It's like, how are you going to pay for for infrastructure projects? How are you going to pay for green energy? How are you going to do this or do that? It's like we have the means to do it. We just have to choose to do it. And I think that's what no, they don't have the rich do not have to worry about it. I mean, the rich here's what the rich do when it comes to taxes. They hide their actual wealth in assets. So someone who's worth 300 billion, that 300 billion is tied up in assets. um so whether it be, they own a bunch of houses, they own a bunch of stock, they own um yachts, or they have, offshore investments, they can get away with they can get away with it, and they will set their income to something lower so that they're paying lower, they're not paying as much in taxes. That's why you hear we have to tax the wealth, because that wealth is being hidden in all those assets. So if someone, if there's a rich person you know um, who owes money, and they will have to liquidate something, so they'll have to sell it off and then use that money to pay whatever they owe. But because they have all these assets, they also get favorable loans, yada yada yada. And so that's how the rich get away with paying so little in taxes, while everyone else is left to really foot the bill. And it's a system that cannot, at some point, it will just collapse, because it's not a sustainable way of doing things. And currently, like, um I think the top 10% are spending, I think at this point, more are spending more in like consuming goods than like the bottom 50 percent of Americans. They have all the buying power. The average American is losing buying power. They're still paying their share of taxes. Corporations also get away with paying less in taxes, um, and that's why you have more and more people are understanding this, and more people are wanting to tax the rich, and that's why propaganda is getting even more aggressive, so that we take attention away from the rich and what they're doing, because they're doing all the shady shit. I mean, if you look at the Epstein files, there are a lot of rich motherfuckers who are in the Epstein files by name, and we haven't heard anything of the Epstein files since like February, by the way. But I'm gonna get away from that and just say, like, they're just, since the midterms are going on, they're calling everyone a radical terrorist that are trying to raise your taxes and do Sharia law and take away this or take away that. Their advertisement or political ads saying that, you know um, for Ohio. Sherrod Brown's running as a Democratic candidate for Senate against John Husted, and there's just an ad saying that, Sherrod, what do they say? Liberals like Sherrod Brown and Bernie Sanders are giving all of your money to immigrants. They're giving, and it's just like it's first of all a lie, but it's just like it's so disgusting to play on people's fears instead of actually offering something. So that's just my spiel on that. So I that again, propaganda is a very effective tool. Um, much like lying, propaganda is OP when it plays on people's fears. So um, yeah. With that said, there was a interesting report in terms of Mike Rogers. Well, really, there's a couple of things when it comes to Mike Rogers in Michigan, because um, he recently had to come out and say that he supports a moratorium on data centers, even though it was reported that he was getting hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars from from you know companies to for that want to build. Why can't I? The PACs. He was getting money from PACs that were for data centers. Like, he was getting buku money from these pro data center PACs, and he came out and said, actually, the winds are telling me that I should probably come out against data centers, much like Tom Tiffany in Wisconsin. He came out and said that he was also supportive of a moratorium because people uh, uh, people just despise data centers, and I'm right there with them. I was telling someone, I was telling a guy when I was up north, that when you talk to someone who is not politically aligned with you, you can always find something that you actually do align with. And I was like, look at data centers, because people in large hate data centers. They don't like them. They don't want them. Um, and it is the popular position to take. So in Wisconsin, Tom Tiffany came out before David Crowley and said, I support a moratorium. David Crowley was saying, well, I actually support data centers. They can come in. You know, we have to get the community to, help decide whether it goes in or not. And instead of just from the start saying moratorium, because he didn't say it, Tom Tiffany went clip chimped him and said David Crowley is in support of data centers, and this is why you have to take the popular position at the very beginning. Because if you hold that position from the very beginning, you you do not have to worry about being taken out of context. But another thing is that APAC has proven itself to be a liability, and I was saying this on Twitter weeks ago, and other people have also said it. Especially if you are a Democrat running for office, you have to understand APAC is a liability now because the Democratic voting base does not fuck with um, does not fuck with APAC. They don't fuck with Israel. They're both extremely disliked, and so the popular position there is to distance yourself away from APAC. Say that APAC is not is you are against APAC. Just say you're against APAC. Say you're against uh, Israeli aggression, against genocide and ethnic cleansing and apartheid. That is the popular position to take if you're running as a Democrat. But Mike Rogers also decided that he understood that APAC is actually a liability because even amongst independents, they also share an unfavorable view of APAC. Republican voters are still holding out on supporting APAC, but Mike Rogers will not be able to secure a win without getting those independent voters. Obviously, same with Abdul, but Abdul has the popular positions to hold, whether it be being anti-Israel, because Israel is a settler, colonial, fascist, apartheid state. However many adjectives you want to use describing their war crimes, right? And so Mike Rogers has found himself in this tight spot. He's been like, oh, I can just get Democrats who don't want this Muslim guy representing them, yada yada yada. A whole lot of Islamophobia. They've been calling Abdul Al Sayed anti-Semite. They've been calling any Muslim candidate anti-Semite based off the fact that they're Muslim, and that's it. Because the Republican Party literally has an anti-Semite problem. They have tons of groypers in their staff. Young Republicans are increasingly getting caught with their groyper mentality and messaging. Besides the point, Mike Rogers, well, first of all, was in coordination with APAC, which is actually illegal. I did look this up. Super PACs cannot coordinate with candidates. It is an illegal thing to do, but Mike Rogers was doing it anyway. Allies of Mike Rogers, Michigan's GOP nominee for the U.S. Senate, have asked APAC not to advertise on his behalf, triggering a rupture with the powerful but polarizing pro-Israel group. This is reporting by Axios, by the way. Rogers spoke with APAC chair Michael Tuchin in Los Angeles last week. The next day, APAC shelved an already cut video ad targeting Rogers's Democratic rival, outspoken Israel critic Abdul Al Sayed. Why it matters: the extraordinary tension underscores how far APAC's political standing has fallen amid voters' anger over the war in Gaza. It's not a war, it is a genocide, it is ethnic cleansing. even even Rogers, a staunchly pro-Israel Republican, fears the group's public support could be a liability in the November 3rd election. Again, people are realizing APAC is a liability. If we want independence, if you're a Republican and you're looking at gaining independent support of independence, you're thinking APAC is probably a liability because the majority of independents do not support Israel or APAC. Driving the news, the move by Rogers' team angered APAC officials who had spent more than $30 million trying to defeat Al Sayed in the Democratic primary and prepared to spend millions more to help elect Rogers, according to people familiar with the conversation. Um, as far as I know, I think it was 35, about 35 million that APAC spent trying to defeat Al Sayed during the primary. Didn't work. They just burned a shit ton of money on that one. El Sayed made APAC a centerpiece of his successful primary campaign, using the group spending against him to portray Democratic opponent Haley Stevens as beholden to the pro Israel lobby. Um, El Sayed has called Israel a rogue state, accused it of genocide and apartheid, and has declined to say whether Israel has a right to exist as a Jewish state, which um, he has correctly pointed out that no one is asking if Palestine has any right to exist as a Palestinian state, as a because Palestinians are more than just Muslim. Palestinians are Christian as well. Palestinians are agnostic as well. Palestinians, uh, no one asks about their right to exist. But Israel, obviously being an apartheid state, um, by international law, does not have a right to exist. By international law, Israel has broken many international laws. That made defeating him a priority for APAC, which rarely mounts major spending campaigns in general elections. Behind the scenes, Rogers' team warned APAC before the August 4th Democratic Party that it believed El Sayed would beat Stevens, though APAC held out hope Stevens would prevail. The two sides agreed to keep talking. After Al Sayed narrowly won, APAC told Rogers' allies it wanted to continue its advertising offensive into the November 3rd general election. But Rogers' team believed APAC's primary ads had backfired by giving El Sayed a powerful foil, one he was eager to use again. APAC, if you're listening, come back and burn it again, El Sayed said before his primary victory. He's so goaded. Um, Rogers' allies urged APAC to get involved without putting the group's name front and center. People familiar with the talks told Axios, which is crazy because he understands that being publicly tied is a liability, yet he is still trying to champion this 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 pack that lobbies for Israel, a fascist apartheid state. Uh, and I'm sorry, I have to say it again. Mike Rogers, still no policy. One option: directing APAC donors to a pro Rogers super PAC instead of the group running its own ads, or a joint fundraising group the Rogers campaign has established with the national GOP. Rogers' team also proposed hiring APAC's political strategist to help guide its efforts. But APAC officials weren't satisfied. The group wanted a visible role in defeating Al Sayed and argued that because Rogers is strongly pro Israel, Al Sayed would tie him to the pro Israel lobbying group regardless. And I mean, obviously, with this article, he still can. This article is kind of devastating for Mike Rogers, by the way. Which there's also interesting polling that came out recently that I want to look at briefly in just a moment. The direct talks between Rogers' team and APAC have now gone cold, prompting a broader GOP effort to broker peace. Jewish Republican donors with ties to both sides are acting as intermediaries, people familiar with the discussion said. Some national Republicans now worry that APAC, whose super PAC ended July with nearly $60 million in the bank, will sit out the general election entirely. Others say APAC has too much at stake to not jump into the Michigan race, and they expect the group to eventually reconcile with Rogers' team. APAC has suffered a a string of high-profile defeats in the Democratic primaries. The group's latest setback was Tuesday when a candidate it opposed won a special election for a Northern California House seat. Rogers is running in a swing state with one of the country's largest Arab American populations, giving him reason to tread carefully on Israel and Gaza. A recent Fox News poll found 55% of Michigan voters oppose continued U.S. aid to Israel. You know what's crazy about the suggestion that uh, Rogers has a reason to tread carefully on Israel and Gaza because of the Arab American population in Michigan is that he just recently did a a press conference with a rabbi who came out and said a rabbi who said he was a lifelong Democrat voting for Rogers because he was concerned with Al Sayed's, not being supportive of Israel. It's just like not he's not getting away from the allegation of being propped up by APAC. He's not going to beat it. So yeah, the recent Fox News poll found 55% of Michigan voters oppose continued U.S. aid to Israel. El Sayed's attacks on AIPAC may have less potency in the November general election than they did in the Democratic primary, where voters were more likely to be critical of Israel. Operatives from both parties believe in the Michigan race, like others in manufacturing-heavy states, is more likely to turn out voters' perceptions of the economy than their views on Israel. I welcome any and all support from the pro-Israel community, and I'm proud to have their involvement, Rogers told Axios. We appreciate former Rep. Mike Rogers' welcoming of pro-Israel support. Our members are highly motivated to be involved in this race, and we will be looking at every option to make the case that Al Sayed policies are bad for Michigan and for America, AIPAC spokesperson Darren Sosa said. Um. So, let's see, where was it? Yes. So right here, Al-Sayed's attack on APAC may be have less potency in the November general elections, where voters are more likely to be than they did in the Democratic primary, where voters are more likely to be critical of Israel. Independents are I think a majority of independents at this point are critical of Israel. So I mean, yes, it will be less potent, but the majority of Americans are moving to the side of being against funding Israel's genocide in Gaza, um, ethnic cleansing in Lebanon, and settler violence in the West Bank. Americans are largely not fucking with that anymore. I just wanted to quickly point out something interesting. This is a poll that came out recently for Michigan. That I thought, what is this video? Okay, oh, that's a 23-minute video. We're not gonna watch that today. So 2 recent polls. One poll shows El Sayed leading Rogers by 7 points, and an AARP poll that took a look at the role voters 50 and older will play in the race. So, Michigan's open U.S. Senate seat is one of the most closely watched races this election cycle. The seat is being left vacant by Gary Peters, who is retiring. Widely considered the political outsider, Abdul El Sayed narrowly defeated Democratic establishment candidate Haley Stevens in Michigan's August primary. He's facing off against Mike Rogers, who ran unsuccessfully for Debbie Stepanow's seat upon her retirement in 2024. The latest in Michigan Senate polling, the general election is less than 3 months away, and several entities are beginning to release their polling results. See some of the latest polling numbers below. Susquehanna Polling and Research, Fox 2 spoke with Susquehanna Polling and Research, an American public opinion polling and research firm, about its polling released on Tuesday, August 18th. The poll was conducted August 11th through 17th, 2026, using live telephone agents and had a sample size of 800 likely voters. Among likely voters, Democrat nominee Abdul Al Sayed leads his Republican opponent Mike Rogers by a 46 to 39% margin, or 7 points. 9% are undecided, and 4 prefer another candidate. I don't. Yeah, that's weird to me. But this is where things were really interesting for me in the Susquehanna poll. Was El Sayed leads Rogers 91 to 0% with self-identified Democrats, and leads Rogers 46 to 24 with independents and unaffiliated voters. I think that's par of the course. The unification, um, uh, uh, the unification, what's the word that I want to use? Democrats have been trying to unify the base, and it has been paying off very well. Um, and this was over a 6 day period. Obviously, you have the Democrats for Mike Rogers. They're not actually Democrats. It's whatever. What I found really interesting was this: Rogers leads El Sayed 90% to 2% with Republicans. Who are the 2% that's breaking away from Rogers on this? I want to know. I need to know. Somebody needs to go find these Republicans who are breaking away from Mike Rogers to vote for El Sayed, because I want to know what their thought process is. I have to know. It is so interesting to me. Please, 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 some reporter, go out and find an individual who is breaking away from Mike Rogers to in support of El Sayed. Please, I need to understand. I need to understand. With that being said, I also need to understand what is it about Mike Rogers that is actually appealing for his supporters, because he has given no policy. I want someone to do a focus group with Mike Rogers supporters. I want them to ask them why they support Mike Rogers, and when they tell you because they don't want socialism in the country, I want you to ask them two things. I want you to ask them what they think socialism is, but I also want you to ask them what Mike Rogers' policies are, because I haven't heard them. So maybe they have. Maybe they have heard Mike Rogers' policies. And you know what? A third question: ask them if they know what Abdul's policies are. Because Abdul, any chance that he gets, he gives three three of his policies: money out of politics, money in money in your pockets, and Medicare for all. Those are just three, and then he just brings those out because it's short and it's simple. He has a lot of policies that he wants to push for. But Mike Rogers doesn't talk about policy. He just talks about stopping socialism and saying that your taxes are going to go up for to pay Medicare for all. When when the Republican Party has a regressive tax on Americans, which in the form of the tariffs, everything you go and buy for the most part has been we've been paying higher prices for a lot of goods because of tariffs. And obviously the not obviously, I don't know how many people know this, but the tariffs were deemed to be illegal. And instead of American citizens getting the refunds for those tariffs, corporations are getting refunds for those tariffs. Corporations are getting billions of dollars back after they had to raise prices because of tariffs. Americans don't get a crumb. Remember when Donald Trump was saying people were going to get a rebate check for the higher prices. Motherfucker dropped that so fast. He came out and was like, I don't care about affordability. I don't care. Affordability is a hoax. Remember? The, the Republican Party is so antagonistic to the average American. I don't understand. I don't know how better to communicate that to people other than look at their material conditions. Are they better? Because largely people have to understand that no, their material conditions are not better. They're actually worse off. The AARP is less interesting. It's older voters, and Abdul is suffering in this with voters over 50, which obviously is par of the course. Older people have like a very a lot of older folks are very self-centered type of mentality with the things that they have, and yeah, so that's just that. We don't gotta talk about that. I don't think there's anything else I want to talk about. I kind of curious about this video. Maybe watch a little bit. Oh my god. The money is stacking up. What? Jamie Foxx? Can you the fuck is Beat Shazam all new Tuesdays on Fox, anytime on Hulu. Wasn't he in Django Unchained? Hey, Roop Raj, Big Roop, Big Roop. On this busy Thursday evening, President Donald Trump promising crushing economic sanctions on countries that support Iran. Iran firing back. All right, we're not gonna watch this. It's I am yeah. I thought it would just get right into like talking about Abdul and Mike Rogers, but it doesn't. The sanction this proposed sanctions on Iran and people in countries that partner with Iran ain't gonna do shit. The sanctions before didn't do shit. Trump is losing the war. Time to take the L, man. Get the fuck out. Just say sorry, and we gotta move on. We gotta move on because people are suffering here. I can't. I mean, you got millions off of SNAP, millions of kids who are further food insecure. You've got billionaires taking advantage and exploiting everybody. It's just fucking stupid. All right. Well, with that being said, it's 3.5 hours in. I might stop here. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to talk about. I can always look at this. And we listened to that. But I've replied to a lot of things. Yeah, I thought this was interesting. Vance said he would like to go back and tell his pawpaw that there's a man who claims to stand for working people who says not only should we have Sharia law, but if you criticize it, you are a white supremacist. Like, let's be real. God, what did I say? Oh yeah, he's just telling everyone he's a liar. Because he doesn't. I can't remember. I'm sorry. I'm my brain's broken, guys. I think I gotta end it here. Uh, I had a thought behind this. The thought behind this was that he's just lying about Abdul El Sayed. Um, Basically, I mean, the context of this is that Abdul is a terrorist. That's what it is, right? He's a fundamentalist that wants to do Sharia law. And it's like, no, this is a lie. This is a lie. Abdul had a good clapback. His clapback was like, is he going? Would he take his wife to go see his pawpaw? Right? Because the thing is like JD Vance has stopped since when they first won the White House, right? When they first got the Trump and JD Vance won. JD Vance would appear with his wife, Usha Vance. But then the racists and the groypers started really attacking her. So now he doesn't show up with her at all. Like she is so far in the background. And so that's what makes Abdul's clapback really good because he doesn't show off his wife anymore. Like he is it feels like he's trying to cater to a certain type of supporter, the racist type of supporter, the same people who go after Vivek Ramaswamy for being the child of Indian immigrants, right? I mean, Vivek, the motherfucker was born in Cincinnati, went to Xavier. The dude's as American as it gets, but yeah. Anyways, I think that's about it from me. Unless Jaden, you had a comment that you want you would like to get my opinion on. I don't know. Um, whew, I'm tired now. I just saw this. Have you guys seen the list of food items that have been recalled? There is there are so many recalls for salmonella, uh, botulism, uh, that is just like it's utterly ridiculous that in 2026, the big 226, that we have to, you know, be very careful about the foods that we buy because anything that we get could possibly make us violently sick. It's an incredible it's almost an incredible feat at this point to just fuck up things so majorly that people can't afford to buy things, but they also have to be fearful of buying fucking food in a so-called first world nation because that food can make them violently ill. This is why we have regulations. And this is why regulations are good because they protect us. People like so one thing, this actually goes back to propaganda too. Since I was talking about propaganda, is that there's only a small group of individuals that benefit from deregulation, and that is the capital owners, the corporations, the billionaires. They are the only ones who benefit from less regulation. Regulations protect everybody else. The average American is protected by regulations. Those regulations might be put on uh, uh, oh my goodness, might be put on factories so that the factories are not putting out massive amounts of pollutants, whether it be in the air, the soil, the water, right? Um, you've got your regulations on banks so they don't screw over customers. Regulations on food industry so that they don't make you sick. Regulations on pharmaceutical industry so they don't make you sick. You have all these regulations to protect you, but we have an administration that is allowing companies to buy their way out of regulations, literally with factories were able not even buy, all they had to do was send a letter asking to not have to follow regulations, and they've been allowed to put more pollutants into our air and waterways. But then you have companies like Taylor Farms paying a couple $1 million to get away from food regulations, so that they could just ship out whatever the hell they have, and it be contaminated with cyclospora, and you get thousands of cases of cyclospora, and including some deaths from it, giving people violent diarrhea. That's insane. Regulations are meant to protect us, and we benefit from regulations, whereas the large corporations, the billionaires, find regulations to be stifling to their profit motives. So what they do is they get politicians to start saying that regulation is making everything more costly for the consumer, or regulation is hurting your chances to make more money, when none of that is the case. And it again goes back to that propaganda of, oh, I'm losing out on something because of this, not realizing that it is a function of the government that we often take for granted because it's something that we don't see. Government works well when you are not seeing the things that are benefiting you being done, because they are being done efficiently. But as soon as those things are broken, then we see it, and we then our attention is to it. But with this kind of thing, is they are actively propagandizing people to look unfavorably towards regulations that protect them. And it's such a weird thing. Like, people have to understand that, like, we have these things to protect us, and us being protected is a good thing. It is not a bad thing. It is not hurting your pocketbooks for us to be safe, to be able to eat safe food, for us to be able to breathe clean air. Anyone with children will tell you they want their children to have access to safe food, have access to clean air and clean water. Anyone's going to tell you that. But propaganda is so strong that they will think of themselves in the moment and think that, oh, this is actually a bad thing because it hurts me, instead of thinking, oh, this is a good thing because it benefits me and it benefits my children, and it will benefit my children's children and their children's, that kind of thing. Anyways, oh, this was also really good, but I gotta stop. But I keep seeing things. Jake Lang and some other God, who's the guy? He's like a religious. He's a pastor, Lorenzo Sowell. Is that Sowell? Is that how you pronounce it? Anyways, Rogers did a thing with this guy, who also did a thing with Jake Lang, a straight up Nazi, who, you know what? Let it play for a minute, because Jake Lang said some shit in this.
Lang organized what he called a Christian crusade at the city council meeting, with many coming out to stand in his support.
Outside the Islamic Center of America, this is the largest mosque in the Western Hemisphere.
Share your testimony, Jake. Share your testimony.
Thank you, Pastor, for having me here today.
This right here, I'm going to let this part play, and then I'm stopping it because it's rather disgusting. But this, if you know who Jake Lang is and you didn't think he was a Nazi before, when you hear him say what the fuck he's about to say, there is no other conclusion that you can come to that he than the fact that he is a fucking Nazi. He's also gone to I think APAC headquarters and literally done the Hitler salute in front of them. He's all like also like calling saying really anti-Semitic shit to Jewish people in front of that said building. Like, it's crazy. He is anti-Semitic. and a Nazi. He's a straight up Nazi. So let's hear what he's about to say. Shit, I didn't mean to do that.
Called a Christian crusade
of America. This is the largest mosque in the Western Hemisphere.
Share your testimony, Jake. Share your testimony.
Thank you, Pastor, for having me here today. They are taking more from you and feeding their family with their 4 or 5 wives, right? Multiplying like cockroaches. They are outbreeding us, and they're stealing our wealth, and they're taking over the local government.
I want to pray for Jake, y'all. I love that. I love you, man. Come on, let's lay hands on Jake. 6 o'clock. Meet me at Dearborn. Meet us in Dearborn.
I'm sorry. There's more. There's another.
America, we have lost this city. You guys all cry about Palestine. Try being a white Christian man. This is a city that is no longer up under American laws. We are up under Sharia law. Yeah. We have planes, we have trains, and we're going to pack them out with all of the Arabs.
There's been a lot.
That is an insane statement. Does that sound like something that has happened historically? I mean, specifically the trains part, right? That is an insane statement to say anywhere, but to go to Dearborn and say some shit like that, like he is he's an agitator. He's a full-on agitator. He goes to places and hopes to agitate people with his disgusting rhetoric, and he typically gets the type of reaction that he wants, but he keeps being allowed to do it, and at this point it is a public safety issue. And the fact that he has not been charged, like they can't stick charges to him, is interesting, and I wonder how he's able to do it. That's all. Abdul has a good message, and I'll let that play, and then I'll end my stream.
By people like him, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Mike Rogers, to make us America smaller, to limit what we can be. And I believe in a big America. I believe in the America where people come together, not despite their differences, but because of their differences, understanding that the things we need together. That when we look at our kids in the eye, we want the same things for them. That we love in the same way, that we hurt in the same way, and that when America works for all of us, it works better for any of us. So people like that can keep trying to limit what America is, but they keep showing themselves for who they are, and America will keep showing itself for who we are. An America that is big enough for everybody.
So yeah, Abdul is just the GOAT. I love Abdul. He is here's the Senate candidate who could get rich off data centers. Michigan. This was good reporting by The Lever. Michigan Republican Mike Rogers holds millions in AI-related investments. That's what it was, investments. There's the clarification. While backing Donald Trump's push to fast-track infrastructure. Excuse me. And he came out endorsing a one-year moratorium because it is killer for a campaign to be pro-data center at the moment. Again, Republicans, and especially this administration, extremely antagonistic to the working class. But I'm going to end it here, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time, you guys. Peace.